Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to completely transform how you view classroom management. We're taking a real deep dive into the foundational principles of a trauma-informed approach. Moving away from those outdated, totally reactive methods and stepping into a framework that builds incredibly supportive, predictable, and engaging environments for literally every single student. If you've ever felt just exhausted by the sheer unpredictability of classroom dynamics, well, you are absolutely in the right place.
Okay, let's dive into this by confronting a major misconception right off the bat. The very term classroom management, it kind of implies this false notion of control, doesn't it? It suggests you have this magic wand or maybe a switch you can flip to manage your students as if they were a group of programmable robots. And hey, as enticing as that might sound on a really stressful Tuesday afternoon, it's just not reality. We simply can't control every action of a diverse group of human beings, nor should we really want to.
So to get us to a place of real practical effectiveness, here's our clear mental roadmap for today. We'll hit 1, the illusion of control, 2, nuisance versus problem behaviors, 3, the 80-20 prevention split, 4, the 4 REP cornerstones, and 5, forming good classroom habits. Highly organized, step by step. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The illusion of control. Any educator knows the absolute bone-deep exhaustion that comes from trying to manage a room full of diverse, sometimes traumatized variables. Students come to us from varying family systems, vastly different backgrounds, and communities. You are never going to be able to prevent every single undesired behavior. It's impossible. Because we can't control everything our students do, we actually have to flip the script entirely. The truth? Classroom management is actually teacher self-management. You have direct influence over how you structure your room and how you manage your own interactions. We're really talking about the purposeful self-management of your instructional practices. By changing our own behavior, we naturally foster a nurturing, structured environment where students actually feel safe adhering to commonly accepted norms.
Section 2. Nuisance versus problem behaviors.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Understanding that we're managing ourselves first leads us straight into distinguishing between nuisance behaviors and problem behaviors. This is a crucial first step in teacher self-management, realizing that not all undesired behaviors are created equal. On one side, we have nuisance behaviors. These are totally inconsequential. A student bouncing in their seat, or occasionally calling out casually without raising a hand. Historically, these drive teachers absolutely crazy, right? But the trauma-informed action here? Simply ignore them. Let it go. On the other side, we have problem behaviors. These are the ones that actually disrupt the flow of instruction or create an unsafe environment, like physical aggression or the kind of constant calling out that completely derails a lesson. The action here? Immediate redirection. Preserving your energy means knowing exactly which is which.
Section 3. The 80-20 prevention split.
So once we know what to ignore and what to redirect, how do we keep those problem behaviors from taking over the entire day? Well, look at this distribution. To put it simply, effective classroom management means a minimum of 80% of your time and effort should be invested in preventing bad behavior, while a maximum of 20% is spent reacting to it. This 80-20 split is a total gold standard in professional literature. When you proactively set up a supportive, trauma-informed structure, you drastically reduce the mathematical likelihood that you'll even need to step in and intervene.
Section 4. The 4 REP cornerstones.
Now for the million-dollar question. How exactly do you achieve that 80-20 split? You need a practical framework. We are going to look at 4 specific, research-grounded approaches that act just like the solid foundation of a house. I am so incredibly enthusiastic to share this with you. This is the REAP framework: rapport building, establishing expectations, acknowledging desired behaviors, and providing opportunities. When you use these together, these 4 evidence-based approaches are an absolute game changer. They hit the root causes of undesired behavior, things like the need for attention, predictability, or positive feedback, and they align perfectly with core trauma-informed principles. So let's break down each letter. Let's start with R, rapport building. Look, we all know connection is important, but here's a quick reality check. You are a human being first and a professional second. It is totally human nature to gravitate towards students who are responsive, who follow directions, and who make you feel good as a teacher, your favorites, so to speak. But the true professional challenge here, it's deliberately reaching out to connect with the students who appear distant, difficult to reach, or who maybe even challenge your comfort level. Honestly, equity demands this of us. This quote from Albert really hits the nail on the head. Most kids don't care what you know until they know that you really care about them. It beautifully captures it. When vulnerable students, especially those experiencing the emotional distress of trauma, start to see your genuine efforts to build a relationship, they develop trust. And that trust creates a profound, essential sense of safety. Purposeful rapport building doesn't just help that individual student, it shifts the climate of your entire classroom, and it fosters positive peer interactions too.
Moving on to the E, establishing expectations. Now, this is not about handing out a rigid, punishing list of thou shalt nots on the very first day of school. Forget that. It's about developing 3 to 5 broad social norms, like be respectful or be safe. This is a highly collaborative way to foster social and emotional learning. For a student who has lived through trauma, this kind of transparency and predictability is absolutely an essential support system. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Seneca's ancient wisdom applies directly to modern teaching. If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. If you don't clearly define the destination, you and your students are just drifting. Setting broad, clear expectations focuses your students' attention exactly on where you want them to go, rather than what you don't want them to do. It gives them a clear roadmap and really a sense of power over their own success. So that brings us to the A, which stands for acknowledging desired behaviors. Once your expectations are set, you have to reinforce them. It sounds super simple to just catch them being good, but let's be real, it's actually really hard work. Our own implicit biases make it incredibly easy to dwell on the negatives and hyperfixate on the student who's acting out. You actually have to purposefully shift your mindset. You have to narrow your focus to spot those subtle, powerful moments of success and actively provide positive reinforcement.
Finally, we've got the P, providing opportunities. Specifically, opportunities to respond, or OTRs. Think of this as the engine of your classroom. You want to use a massive array of oral, written, and action-based strategies to elicit student responses. The math here is incredibly simple, folks. The more actively engaged your students are with a curriculum, the less time they literally have to engage in undesired behavior. It's that simple. High engagement equals high motivation. Let's move to and see how this builds seamlessly in a real, living classroom. It's a continuous, step-by-step preventative cycle. Step 1, you set a broad expectation, like be responsible. Step 2, you provide a highly engaging opportunity to respond during your lesson. Step 3, when a difficult-to-reach student successfully engages, you catch them in the act and acknowledge it, which, as you can guess, circles right back around to building that crucial rapport we talked about.
Section 5, forming good classroom habits.
When you run that REAP cycle consistently, you aren't just managing a classroom, you're doing something much, much deeper. Let's think about the long game here and the impact of the REAP framework. Benjamin Franklin said, "It is easier to prevent bad habits than to break them." He totally hits the nail on the head. Every single day in your classroom, habits are being formed based on what gets reinforced. By utilizing the REAP framework, you are actually living out that 80-20 prevention principle we explored earlier. You're doing the vital work of preventing bad habits from taking root in the first place, rather than exhausting yourself trying to break them months later. So here is the whole shebang. Your positive teaching habits directly build our positive student habits. Teacher self-management, grounded in the REAP principles of rapport, expectations, acknowledgement, and engagement, is the true architect of a healthy, trauma-informed classroom. When these 4 practices are implemented together, they are way more powerful than the sum of their individual parts. I want to end this explainer with one provocative question for you to carry into your classroom. What is the very first teaching habit you will change tomorrow to build your trauma-informed foundation? Think about it. Will you focus on building rapport with that one student who really pushes your buttons? Will you reframe your expectations? Or will you actively focus on catching them being good? The power to shift the entire environment is right in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.